So one thing, if you had one thing that you could say, entrepreneur with an idea, what's the one piece of advice you give them?
I would just tell them to be ready.
Be ready. I like it. Welcome to the AMSDynamics.com podcast. AMSDynamics.com. Let us be your dynamic business solution. All right, here we are. AMSDynamics.com. We're the small business superheroes. We are here with the mad scientist, the barbarian, and of course, we have a very big treat today because we're here with El Jefe himself, the Superman to our Justice League, the Iron Man to our Avengers, CEO of AMS, Travis Idle. Welcome.
Those are some strong words, but thank you.
We are very, very glad to have you here. We know that you have a wealth of information about entrepreneurship, small business startup, because you are at the helm of your own warship of small business. And I know that's a big ship to steer. And so when you say be ready, talk to me a little bit more about the be ready part.
There's no course, there's no class, there's no single source of information to sort of learn how to do this. So just be ready every day that you're going to be solving problems that you don't know the answer to, or that you're going to have to figure out. And they come in all shapes and sizes. Some are how to keep customers, how to get customers, how to get paid. Some are just how to manage your company, how to deal with your employees, all those kinds of things.
So now that's a good point that you brought up, because you said some are teaching how to get customers, some are teaching how to keep customers. In the past, you have talked to me about different phases of a small business's evolution. You refer to one, I think, is the hunting phase, right?
Finders, minders, and grinders.
There it is.
Yep.
To expand on that a little bit more for me. Finders, minders, and grinders.
So finders typically are you come up with an idea, and so you found an idea, and then you're the founder of a company, and you're out there trying to find clients, trying to really grow your business right from ground up, grassroots, straight off of that. Grinders are people so once you've got some legs under you, once you've got some clients, once you're selling your products, and you're starting to hire employees, now you're having to grind it out in high growth mode. And then minders, once you've kind of plateaued, let's say you own a large portion or all of the market share, after that you're sort of minding the business. And the same person who founds the business sometimes is not always the next one to take it to the next level and grinding it out, and may not certainly be qualified or have the skill set to mind it at the end. So you end up hiring people. Michael Dell's a great example. He grew his business, and then he kind of hired people, I think, to sort of mind it for him after that.
Gotcha. And so in your opinion, the finders, grinders, and minders phases, is there one that's more difficult than the other, or do they each have their own different sets of difficulties but equally difficult?
I think the latter. I think they're equally difficult. Obviously it's hard. The hardest phase is probably trying to get it off the ground. It's because most small businesses fail. I think maybe a statistic around 96%. We probably need to research that to make sure I'm not telling you wrong. That 96% of small businesses fail.
We can check
within the first 5 years.
Uh-huh.
So if you know the odds are stacked against you like that, then that may be the most difficult phase.
Okay. So what it sounds like is, because you hear all the time on social media, on YouTube channels, on content that's out there, you constantly hear the rise and grind. Let's grind. It's time to hit the grind, back to the grind. But it sounds like people might be missing out on an initial first step, that full phase of finding. Do you feel like that might be something that people, if they did a mental reset, if more businesses might survive, if they focused a little bit more on the fact that they're going to have to do some finding first?
Absolutely. I mean, a lot of people have great ideas, and they come in even into a lab and create that product or create that service, but they've never talked to the first client and found out who and how many and how much are willing to pay you for whatever it is that you're trying to sell or service you're trying to provide to people. So if you don't have customers that are willing to pay, you might have the greatest thing since whatever, but if you've found your idea and you're finding your company, but if you can't get those initial customers to pay you for it, you really don't have anything.
See, now I've talked openly on the podcast about the small business that I used to own, and I know you're very familiar with that business. And I made that mistake. I know I made that mistake because I went to a lab like you're talking about, created a product, and then I was like, give me all of it, and I ended up with $17,000 worth of product on shelves, waiting for customers, and then I decided I was like, well, now it's time for me to go out and generate some demand for all this product, and it was after that point that I met you. And I still remember talking to you, and you were like, I'm sorry, you did what now?
Some people intuitively know that there are customers out there. I think it's more important to find them first. At the same time, while you're building your product or buying your product or developing your product or putting your team together to provide a service, in our instance, consulting or accounting, I think it's more important to find the customer first and then find the product or solution that will help them. But that's a fine balance because you can't go out there and sell things that you don't have.
That's true.
Or that don't exist.
Now, that scarcity feeling, though, people always want to get to a restaurant if they can't get a reservation there. People always, oh, that's a great doctor. You can't get in to see him for 6 months. I'm like, well, I'm bleeding today. So
Right.
But when I was running that supplement business that I had, I do remember I interacted with a business owner who would intentionally allow some of his more popular products to run out of supply for a few days so that people would be clamoring for it. Okay. Well, he went the opposite way. He did finding. He's stuck in that finding phase, and so whenever he had product, he already had demand for it because he was out there getting customers and getting them drawn to his brand, becoming a part of his group, his legion, and they wanted his products.
And that sounds like a perfect balance. What you don't want is, and we have restaurant clients that talk to us about this, the perfect wait time is 30 to 45 minutes. We've had some restaurants that have won some Yelp and TripAdvisor awards where it's an hour and a half, 2 hour wait. Well, that turns away a lot of people. But if you get that sweet spot of a 30-minute wait, that you know there's enough demand, but yet it's not enough to make you walk away. So in your example, he's only out of product for 2 or 3 days as opposed to 2 or 3 weeks,
Yep.
and then people find a substitute or just move on.
That's true because I think in your restaurant example, in 30 minutes, if I leave here and go to another restaurant, well, by the time I get there and then wait for their wait, it's already I might as well just sit here for the 30 minutes.
Exactly.
Same thing with the 2 to 3 days on the supplements. If I order a supplement from somewhere else, this was before Amazon Prime, and so if I order a supplement from somewhere else, it'll be 7 to 10 days to arrive. I might as well just wait the 2-3 days for the one that I really want.
Yep.
So, well, now you are the CEO of Accounting Management Solutions, AMS LLC.
And the janitor.
You always say that. You say I may be the CEO, but my title should probably be janitor. You know what? The fact that you roll up your sleeves and you're finding and grinding, and the janitor as well. I think that means a lot to your employees. I can speak for the employees here in this room and our unpaid intern behind the engineering board. It means a lot to all of us.
No, I mean, when you start your business, you're the only person there. You're employee number one, and hopefully you can convince enough clients to use you that you want to, or need to, not even want to, but need to hire employees to service your clients as good or better than you do.
So talk about the creation story of AMS, because here we are, we're the Small Business Superheroes podcast. We are powered by AMS LLC. But what's the creation story? What was the genesis? What prompted you to jump out and join that finder's phase and really start the good fight for entrepreneurship?
So I had a day job as a commercial lender in the early 2000s, and I must have had 3 different CPAs ask me if I knew anyone who did bookkeeping. And I didn't. I didn't know anyone who did bookkeeping. And they were trying to get bookkeeping done for their clients to finish tax returns. And I knew how to balance a checkbook, and I had taken some accounting classes, but that was about it. And so I said, well, no, I don't know anybody, but if you want, I'll take a look. And so we ended up doing I ended up doing the bookkeeping at night, sort of moonlighting, for a small nonprofit, and I think a couple other, like a gift shop and something else. And so 2 or 3 clients led to 4 or 5 clients, led to some tax returns, and then in 2012, that was enough of an evening gig and weekend gig for me to quit my day job and do that full time, and then it's just kind of blown up from there. Wow. So that took really about 7 years of moonlighting. And so I tell people who ask me about, starting their own business to possibly, that way, at least when you quit your day job, you've got something to move forward to. You have a client base to build on. You're not starting from scratch, hanging your shingle out with no revenue coming in.
You mean $17,000 worth of product on a shelf and no customers knocking on the door? That's
Yeah,
a tough position.
And I mean, I don't remember. Did you have a day job then, or no?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Okay.
Well, it was at night, but I had a day job at night. Yeah, I worked 12-hour shifts at night.
So some people who are better savers than I am may save up 6 or 12 months worth of working capital so that they can quit their day job. And when you devote 100 or 110% of your time to your job as opposed to 40 or 50% because you got a day job to focus on and pay the bills, I think you can get there a little faster. So I might have been able to accelerate my growth a little faster if instead of 7 years, if I'd quit my day job, I might have got there in 3 years. But I wanted the safety net of a steady paycheck on Friday.
Gotcha. And I understand that feeling. So now what was that feeling like for you when you finally did take the plunge? Because we've talked on previous podcasts about the overcoming fear aspect of deciding, okay, I'm doing this. Here we go.
It's the scariest damn day of your life. Because two things. One, the next Friday you don't have a guaranteed paycheck. And the second thing is you don't have a set schedule. So normally if you're working for somebody else, you feel the need, or typically most people feel the need, that I need to show up by 8 or by 9 the next morning. When you wake up on Monday morning and you're your own boss, there's no one there to tell you that you have to be at the office or even, at your desk if you're working from home at any particular time. And so I think it's very important to set a schedule and try and stick to that, even if you don't have as many clients to keep you busy during the day.
Do you think that that's like a pitfall for some people? They take the plunge. I'm an entrepreneur now. I'm a small business owner, but no set schedule, and so they end up kind of maybe laziness takes them.
Yeah, or distraction. It gets back to the very point we were talking about at first, which is be ready. Be ready for not having a schedule. Be ready to set your own schedule and to try and make sure that you go out there and you have a certain number of calls you want to make a day, or a certain amount of billable time in our industry that you want to have during the day. Set those goals up front.
Fantastic. And so when somebody is making that plunge, they jump in. I'm an entrepreneur now. I'm a small business owner. I feel like I'm ready. Are there any moments that you remember where you were in the ring, you're fighting the good fight, but you took a hit that knocked the wind out of you, and you said, maybe this ain't for me? Did you ever have those moments?
I never had the feeling of maybe this isn't for me. The roughest times you'll have, at least specifically in the service business, and actually in the product business, and I think we talked about that when you had your business. You could go in, win a contract for in our world, or a purchase order in your world. So you need to deliver $15,000 worth of goods, and so you take it out of your inventory. That's money out of your pocket. You put it on their shelf, on your customer's shelf, and they can't seem to find their checkbook.
Yes.
And that's usually a gut-wrenching moment. So I remember doing some work for a corporate client, and as soon as we had finished the work and we were about ready to get paid, that's when they decided to file bankruptcy. And so we ended up having to help them out of bankruptcy, but there's a lot of ins and outs that go along with getting paid and getting approved by the courts to get paid to do all that work. And while you're trying to pay the mortgage and pay the car payment and keep employees paid, if you're not getting paid, that's rough.
I do remember you talking to me about it back then. Like you said, you did, because I was in talks with two major retailers, names that people would know immediately, and they placed humongous business-saving orders. And you and I had a conversation because I called you gushing with alacrity. Oh, I finally got to. They want $7 trillion, and then you said, okay, I tell you what, take a deep breath. Let's sit down and have a conversation about this. And you cautioned me about that, and so I ended up not taking those particular proposals from those two major retailers. And then I watched as another business owner that was a friend of mine went out of business because he did.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
I didn't know that part. Okay,
yeah,
wow.
Yeah, I watched him slide right out of business because, like you said, if such and such giant retailer places $1 million order with a small business owner, for a small business owner to look at $1 million payday and say, I have to have it, well, now he's mortgaging the house, and now he's getting the money from anywhere to make those products available. Now they're out there on the shelves of the store, but like you said, they couldn't find their checkbook. 30 days, 60 days.
That's right, yeah.
90 days. And that to them it's nothing. Now they've got $1 million in their books somewhere drawing interest, but that small business owner is out the initial investment for that 90 days.
And your inventory may be going off the shelf.
Yeah.
So
Yes.
if they've already sold it, they've
sold
collected
it.
their money, but you haven't collected yours.
Yes.
And it sucks. It's part of business. It's part of, especially in the retail industry, I think they do stretch vendors out quite a bit. It's just part of business. And so when we counsel clients about selling products to large retailers, we try and make sure they have enough working capital to survive that 60 or 90-day float.
Sounds a little bit like you're going back to your initial 2-word secret. Be ready.
That's exactly right.
Be ready.
I don't know that they tell you those things if you're in MBA school, or if you're in business school, or if you're reading books, or even other podcasts.
I'll be honest with you. I've read tons of books, listened to many podcasts, been through the master classes, and gone to the courses, and studied marketing, studied entrepreneurship in college. The 2 words "be ready" in that order for that purpose have never been said to me.
Wow.
Never once. You're the guy, and I'm not sucking up because you signed my day job paycheck. I'm being sincere.
So can we copyright that?
It'll be the title of this podcast, won't it? So let's talk a little bit. Let's touch on some of the nuts and bolts parts of things, because a lot of people, they either you're a podcast host and you talk about the big concepts, or you're a podcast listener and you hear the big concepts, but then it's like, okay, what do I do tomorrow? So you were the one who counseled me through some of the small business organization stuff. Mm-hmm. Without going in depth too much, can you talk a little bit about, okay, you've decided to become a business. Can you do it with your social security number and just take the risk, or is that a risk, or how would you organize if you were going to do this over as a small business?
So even when I started out, I think I'd formed an LLC at the Secretary of State here in North Carolina. I'm not aware of any states in the union that don't recognize LLCs. It gives you a little bit of limited liability protection from lawsuits, but not much, especially when you're by yourself and you're an army of one.
Uh-huh.
There are more complex formations, especially for tax reasons, that can come along a little later, and that's more in a grinder stage.
Okay.
So in the founder stage or the finder stage, I think either a sole proprietor and your social security number, or set up a simple company. I don't know that I would go the corporate route just yet, until I had some clients and some profit. And then when I start to see things take off, then talk to your tax advisor. Obviously call us if you need it, and then start looking at the more complex and tax saving strategies.
Now that's one of the cornerstone services that AMS LLC does provide for people, right?
We do this every day, and we get these questions every day.
Yep. A very common question.
Mm-hmm.
Now, for you, the sole proprietor route, are there unnecessary risks associated with that, as opposed to the LLC, single member LLC?
That's more of a legal question. From a tax perspective, it's the same. So the tax single member LLC versus individual sole proprietor are the same. I'm sure there are some industries that are more litigious, that there may be some protection for the limited liability company versus an individual sole proprietor. With sole proprietor, there is no liability protection.
Gotcha.
So, but I would consult your legal advisor about that. It's just something that they can, because they've had to litigate cases or go to court, they can tell you exactly why you need one structure versus just being on your own.
Got it. Fair enough. So earlier you touched on that there are some people who are, quote, better savers than you are, that will stack up 12 to 18 months of operating expenses before they even take the plunge. So for funding considerations for somebody who's going to start up, do you think that save up and use your own money is the best route, or do you think that there are other routes that people could consider?
Equity is the most expensive money that you can go get. So whether it's private equity or angel investors, you're giving up a portion of your company and a portion of your idea in exchange for money. And those individuals or corporations want, on average, anywhere north of 30 to 40% of return on their money. That's much more expensive than borrowing money. So if you borrow it against your house, or you borrow it against even credit cards, you're talking about, it used to be 18%. Now I think it's probably closer to 15 or 10 if it's unsecured. That's a better option. But if you need, depending on how fast you're trying to scale and how much working capital you need, you may have to give up some of your company, some equity. If you can do it on your own, and you do it with your own savings, not have to borrow any money, which has risk associated with it, and also not have to go sell part of your company, I think you're better off. But I know that that doesn't work in all situations. Some industries and ideas are just much more capital intensive.
Gotcha. That's true. I mean, if you've got a engineering heavy type of thing where you're going to need manufacturing plants and all that stuff, that's a very different thing than if you just we've talked before about a fictional cake store. If you're going to sell cakes and you need flour and sugar and some ingredients, it's different from, well, I want to build a brand new car company or rocket company,
Right.
per se.
Well, like you, even when in your venture, I mean, you had to lay out a lot of money, north of 5 figures up front, just for inventory.
Yeah.
That didn't even include your advertising budget, which was another 5, almost 6 figures.
Yes.
And so to have all that up front, if you had borrowed money on your house and it didn't go well, you run the risk of having to pay all the money back on, and you have used your house as collateral. So if you had it on your own, or I think in your case you had an equity investor, it's better to use somebody else's money.
Gotcha. Yeah. I mean, yes, an equity investor, but I think we can refer to him as an angel investor, without a doubt. He was very, very good about the whole thing, and I was thankful for the opportunity. And I was thankful to have your hand holding the whole time, too. Otherwise, I would have run that thing into the ground.
It might have been your first venture, but it won't be your last.
I love the fact that you said something to me that stuck with me ever since, and this is, almost 14 years ago now. You said that the failure of that business garnered you an MBA that you would have spent years getting.
Oh God, yeah. Oh yeah.
And so that was I learned a lot from it, and since then I've been doing nothing but learning. So we touched a little bit on some of the tax implications of organizing it as an LLC. Are there any other tax considerations that you think people should know up front if they're going to start a new business?
If you start out of the gate and you're lucky enough, or I don't even know what the right word is, but if you can probably produce north of $50,000 in profit in a very short period of time, and that's not just gross revenue, but that's after your expenses, after you've paid everybody except yourself. If you're in that boat and you're there or projected to be there very quickly in the year, and I would not just say projected, but you're actually there. Then I think you should probably look at it and converting to an S corp. Whether if you're a sole proprietor, you're going to have to form a corporation, and then in the IRS terms, elect as an S corp, which is a pass through, or convert your single member LLC to an S corp. In those cases, there are some payroll tax savings that you can garner from doing so, but the compliance costs are not cheap, but not expensive. But I, as your tax advisor, couldn't save you enough money to warrant those compliance costs until you get to about $40,000 or $50,000 in profit.
Gotcha. So we're going to do a whole episode breaking that down in the future. We're gonna break in detail about the tax considerations and the organization stuff. But in the meantime, if people that are listening, they want to get some more guidance on this, all of everything you're describing, AMS does that. That's every day, bread and butter, right?
All day, every day.
For companies all over the country.
Especially this time of year during tax season when clients are coming in, and most everyone has an idea, and I think you touched on this on one of your other podcasts. A lot of people have ideas. The question is whether they actually make any headway on it or actually step off the ledge and start it.
Yes.
But we have those discussions with clients when they come in to get their accounting or taxes done. We have those almost every day.
Fantastic. So amsdynamics.com they can go to. They can email at info@amsdynamics.com. And get some more information about this, and you'll be when you email that, you're talking directly to me and the mad scientist, and we can make sure that you get in touch with the right accounting people over here at the firm. So that's stuff that we can take care of for them.
No, thanks.
Any other advice that you think? So we've got somebody right now who's listening right this moment who says, be ready, I'm on board, I'm in there. They've got an idea that's been burning inside of them. Any other advice that you could give them about those difficult first couple of steps?
Going out on my own was the best thing I've ever done in my life. I just didn't realize that that's where I needed to be, and I need to work for other firms and companies to learn some structure and some discipline there. But if you have, I don't regret a day that I'm out there, even some of the roughest days that have been out there, and I've had some of the best days out there. But I would also tell people that, if you have families, if you have spouses and children to consider that are dependent on you for your income, just be careful about going out there because it is extremely risky. Even the best ideas, they fail for many reasons, not because it was a bad idea. Either they just ran out of resources, whether that's people or cash or both. But just don't just be completely blind to the fact that other people are depending on you. So take as many calculated risks as you can. I would consider keeping your day job and doing it on the nights and weekends until it's absolutely all consuming and it starts to affect your personal life or your day job. And then at that point, if you've earned enough money or you see enough potential, quit your day job, jump off the cliff, go head first into it, and I think you'll be great.
We've talked before about how you don't necessarily have to rush into it. Unless it's on fire or bleeding, you don't have to rush into it. You can take your time, like you said, nights, weekends, stack up some operating capital, and then when you're ready, really ready, jump into it.
I've been one to scale slower, and I know in the marketplace and a lot of things that I listen to and read, they want you. Advice is to scale as hard and fast as you can. I'm more of a slow and steady, get you there.
Uh-huh.
And at the time, I had people who depended on me for my paycheck, and my dog's got to get fed, and mortgage's got to get paid, and it's a big risk. So even we've been successful from day one to be able to have clients, provide good service. But there have been days and times, especially in the early years, like 2008, 2009, when the economy wasn't all that great. People run out of cash, but they need your services and they need your help. But they drag you out paying 30, 60 days. Your lender, your mortgage company's not going to let you drag out 30 or 60 days. The grocery store's not going to lend you 30 or 60 days worth of capital.
Another one of those things they need to be ready for.
So be very careful about running up a lot of credit card debt. I've seen some clients do it. It's a huge risk, and it's very expensive. And if it doesn't go well, you'll have to pay all that back. And I don't want to say, very rarely, but I occasionally see clients in bankruptcy, mainly because they started something that it's just, it consumed all their capital.
Fantastic.
But just be careful about that, and that's what I would tell people. But so slow and steady unless you're in a specific industry or your ideas really have to get to market fast, where you have to scale fast. But in those instances, you may have to jump off the cliff day one. But the rest, I think it's better to do it nights and weekends until it really affects your day job. And now you're working 100-hour weeks, 40 for your day job and 60 for the side hustle.
Yes. Did you see the breakdown there? It was 40 for the day job and it's 60 for the thing you're really passionate about. So like you just said, you're giving 125% of your time over to the passion, the side project. And
it won't feel that way because you like doing it. It just the time will pass, but then your spouse will be like, I haven't seen you for 4 days. Where have you been? And so you're out calling on clients or trying to get new customers nights and weekends, and then so there's no time for ball games and no time for kids, and it's be ready for it to be a stress on your personal life.
So the finder's phase, it sounds like it's different from the grinder's phase, but it's a grind. You're slogging through the mud and working hard all through the finder's phase.
All day, every day.
There we go. You heard it from El Jefe himself, CEO of Accounting Management Solutions. We really appreciate you being here with us. We are going to do a series of podcasts moving forward, kind of going much more in depth onto the topics that we touched on here. Small business organization, tax consideration, financing options, and some of the other accounting concerns. And so we're going to make sure that those things are available to us and available to you guys. And so we'll go in depth on each one of those things so that they have a place to come to be able to learn about that stuff. But in the meantime, until we get those podcasts recorded and up live, they can always reach out to us at amsdynamics.com. They can reach out to us info@amsdynamics, and we're here for you. If you go to amsdynamics.com, there's a book appointment link that you can click on. You can book an appointment. You can even book an appointment directly with Travis Idle, the CEO. You can book an appointment with Ash, the Mad Scientist, or with me, the Barbarian. And for any of these services that you need, any other education that you want to have, we've got you covered. Any final words from you, Mad Scientist?
Nope.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Travis.
Thanks for stopping in.
We appreciate it.
Thank you.
This is the AMS Business Podcast, AMS LLC, amsdynamics.com, and thank you for listening.